welcome to another edition of Cathleen Cuisine. I'm Kathleen Nelson, and this is Cathleen Cuisine Quarantine Style. Today, our recipe is a smoked salmon fettuccine with dill and lemon zest. But of course, what would an edition of Cathleen Cuisine be, quarantine style especially, be without a can or a bottle that I'm drinking from? In this particular episode, I am drinking St. Chapelle Wild Huckleberry Spritz. They say on the back of the can that 2 of these cans is like drinking 1 bottle of wine. So I thought for the purposes of filming this episode, I poured in a glass with ice to sort of tone it down a little bit. It's actually pretty tasty. Hope you give it a try. So why are we choosing to make smoked salmon fettuccine today? Well, being in quarantine, we are getting ready to come out of it, but I do hear that there's a meat shortage. So if you have to stay at home and you have to cook, what could you cook with some basic things that you could stockpile and cook out of your cupboard? And I think that this recipe is something that you would not only find takes advantage of the basics that you should have in your cupboard, but it's actually pretty delicious. So the ingredients we're going to use for our dish today, of course, is pasta. So since this is a pasta dish, I have already cooked up some fettuccine. I have some olive oil from Napa Valley Olive Oil Manufacturer. I highly recommend it. It's a very small production place in Napa that makes amazing extra virgin olive oil. We have the smoked salmon. What's great about smoked salmon is that you can either get it from near your fish section, or you can actually get it from a can. It really doesn't matter, but it's one of those things that will keep for a while and you can have as a staple in your cupboard. I have fresh lemon, shallots, which by the way, you could use onions if you wanted to. Shallots are a wonderful, lighter flavored form of onion. We have fresh dill. I have capers. What's interesting about capers is I once had somebody ask me, hey, what are those caper thingies called? And I don't think that that's what they actually meant. What I think that they meant is, what is a caper and where did it come from? So caper is actually a berry. It comes from a caper bush. And the way that you find it in the grocery stores is they're actually brined, and they add a bit of saltiness to the dish that you're cooking. I have some Parmesan cheese, some cream, some whipping cream. You could use half and half. You can use milk. I happen to use whipping cream because I had some in my refrigerator. I'm actually using Himalayan sea salt. I'm not a huge fan of iodized salt, but I do like Himalayan sea salt because it has a lot of really great minerals in it that you can use to help provision your body. I was kind of oscillating between black pepper and white pepper, but I'm a huge fan of white pepper, and since my dish is going to be a little on the lighter side, I opted for white pepper, and plus I do like the flavor that it brings over cracked pepper. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually slice up the shallots. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the edges of the shallot off, and rather than dice this up, I'm actually going to slice it up into very thin slices. So shallots are very much like onions, however the difference is that they're very mild flavor, and in order to get the value out of the shallot, I really like to get it very, very thin and then break it up and put it into my recipe. Step is I'm going to take dill and I'm going to peel the leaves off of the stem and put them, I'm going to chop these up to a little bit thinner. And this is actually fresh dill, but if you have the dried dill and that's all you have, it's perfectly wonderful. I've cooked with it before and it goes great with fish. So if you have access to fresh dill, by all means use it. If you do not have access to fresh dill, then by all means use the dried dill. Our next step is we're just going to chop up the capers ever so slightly. We don't want to get it really fine, but we just want to break it up, just so that when you get a spoonful of pasta and you get some capers in it, you just get a hint of it. The berries can be a little pungent. You just want a little bit of a hint of flavor. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually zest the lemon. And what that simply means is we're going to take the outer edges of the lemon and we're going to use that as part of our cooking. Lemon in itself is very juicy and it's very sour, but if you use the lemon zest, you get just a hint of a lemon flavor, which goes really amazing with seafood. So there's two ways that you could zest a lemon. You've got this part of your grater, or you have this part of your grater, which is a little bit more coarse. I like this part, although you can still use this one just to get a very finer grade of it. But I like the way that lemon zest is produced by using this medium grade as part of your zesting process. About a teaspoon of lemon zest. You don't need a lot of it in order to get the flavor that you want, but I've got about a teaspoon and we're going to go ahead and use that as part of our recipe. So what we're going to do is we're going to start. I have a pan that's already heated. I believe in heating the pan up before you actually use oil, so I'm just going to put about a tablespoon of oil in here, just enough so that I can get my shallots a little bit fried up so that I can get the flavor out of them. Add a little bit of butter into my shallots now that the flavors come out. Yeah, so what I do is I added the smoked salmon, and if you added it from a can, you probably don't have to break it up, but I'm going to go ahead and break it up since I got this out of a package. A little bit of salmon skin. I'm going to save that for Buddy. Next, I'm going to put some of those capers in that I chopped up recently. And then it's time to put the cream in. So again, you can use any cream that you like. I actually am using heavy cream since I have it. Before I do that, I'm going to add a little bit of pasta water to it because I don't want the cream to scald. And what's great about pasta water is always leave a little bit on hand, because what it is good for, it is good for binding whatever sauce it is that you want onto the pasta that you're making. So I put a little bit of pasta water in. Now I'm going to slowly add the cream in, and it's very important to control your heat so you don't scald the milk that you're putting in. And I'm adding a little bit more pasta water because I like it to be a certain consistency when I'm working with my pasta. Next step, I'm going to go ahead and add my lemon zest in there. And what's nice about the lemon zest is that it goes very well with the salt and the brine of the fish, but then it also brings out a spring-like flavor to your pasta dish. Next, I'm going to add my dill in there. Just draw out that flavor of the dill. Now it's time for a little seasoning. I do not care for iodized salt, so what I have here is the Himalayan sea salt, and I just want to put enough in here to make it to where, I don't want it too salty, but I just want enough of the flavor. And then I'm going to add my white pepper. I love how it's different than the black pepper. It's much more lighter, and it doesn't produce the same color as cracked pepper, but it's got a really amazing flavor. It's got a nice bite to it. Now it's time for our pasta. So we're going to go ahead, and I've got about a half a pound of cooked pasta here, and I'm going to go ahead and add that in to my sauce here. After I cooked it, I drenched it in a little bit of cold water, so it shouldn't be too sticky, and it should be able to blend right into my pasta dish. And now we're just gonna mix it all together. Yeah, this beautiful, beautiful pasta dish. Now, what pasta would be a pasta dish without some Parmesan cheese? So as soon as this heats up, I'm gonna go ahead and coat this with Parmesan cheese and we should be ready to mangia. Okay, now it's time to actually put the Parmesan cheese on. So I'm just gonna sprinkle that on, and I like to cook some cheese into it, but then you can garnish your dish at the very end with some extra Parmesan cheese. We are ready to serve this up. So parting thoughts for today. As we start to head out of quarantine and things start to open up, we're presented with a whole nother set of problems, and that's this meat shortage. So, you know, life isn't going to give you everything you want. As they always say that life, you know, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade out of it. I say when life gives you lemon, make something with lemon zest in it. So until the next episode, thank you for joining me, and I hope you try this recipe, and look forward to seeing you next time.